AITA for telling my fiancé he can't wear the dress at our wedding? Story 1. My partner 30M and I 29F are getting married next year. We were discussing wedding planning, and out of the blue he asked me how I would feel about subverting tradition by having him wear the wedding dress while I wore a tux on our wedding day. When he said this, I actually laughed out loud because I was sure it was a joke, but turns out he was dead serious. He said he finds tuxes are very similar to each other and feel a lot like wearing a suit to a job interview, but he wanted to wear something special. When he got married, and he had always thought wedding dresses were so beautiful and different from each other. I told him no, it wouldn't be appropriate and would turn our wedding into a spectacle and would probably change the way a lot of our friends and family view us. My family is quite progressive, but I think even they would wonder what was going on. He said okay, but seemed down for the rest of the night. We're both very progressive and have several close friends who are gender non-conforming, non-binary, or simply like cross-dressing, so that has never been an issue. But even though we have been together for 5 years, he has never expressed any desire to do so before. It would be okay with me if he wanted to experiment, and I think it would even be a different story if this was something that was integral to his daily identity that he wanted to be reflected in our wedding. I just don't understand why he wants the first time to be on our wedding day. AITA for being controlling over his wedding attire choices. Irrelevant shots at gay people, our advice. It sounds like you handled a potentially sensitive situation with care and respect for both your fiancé and the significance of your wedding day. You're not being controlling for expressing your feelings about what would be appropriate attire for your wedding. Weddings are deeply personal events, and both partners should feel comfortable with the choices made. Your fiancé's desire to wear a wedding dress may come from a place of wanting to express himself in a unique and meaningful way, but it's understandable that such a departure from tradition might be surprising or uncomfortable for you, especially if it hasn't been previously discussed. It's important to have open and honest communication about expectations for the wedding day. Your concerns about how others might perceive the situation are valid. While it's important to celebrate individuality and expression, it's also important to consider the comfort and understanding of your guests, particularly when it comes to such a significant and traditional event like a wedding. It might be helpful to have a deeper conversation with your fiancé about his desire to wear a wedding dress and how it fits into his identity and the vision for your wedding day. Understanding his motivations and concerns can help both of you find a solution that feels authentic and respectful to your relationship and your wedding ceremony. First comment. Absolutely. Especially since his reasoning is, but we've been to weddings where both wore dresses or tuxes. Putting aside that those friends and family may have been gay or lesbian or transgender non-conforming, I'm sure nobody at those weddings was surprised if there were 2 brides or 2 grooms. Meanwhile, him wanting to wear a dress out of the blue is a surprise. Maybe he's questioning his gender. Maybe he just wants to cross-dress. Regardless, I don't think that your wedding is the place to start that journey, or the first time close family and friends should experience that. It would be a big conversation and people would have a lot of questions. I know he's playing it down as just an edgy thing he wobbers to do, but I don't think he realizes it would go like he imagines it would. And if he's not ready to have that conversation with his fiancé privately and be honest, then he certainly isn't ready to turn up to his own wedding in a dress. Second comment. AITA. That is a lot to spring on you before your wedding. It would be one thing if it was something he had been doing. To just show up in a wedding dress on the day is going to cause some confusion. It's totally great if he wants to experiment and be more on the non-binary side, but weddings aren't the appropriate place to announce that to the world. It's like taking a day that should be about you two as a couple and turning it into something that is celebrating who he wants to be. Both are great, but they shouldn't have to compete on the same day. For more update 1. So based on these responses, I realize I may have overreacted. I had another conversation with my fiancé. I tried to explore the reasons he wanted to wear a dress to our wedding in an open-minded way. I emphasized that he could tell me if he was trans or non-binary or wanted to experiment with cross-dressing, and I would still love him and want to marry him. He seemed genuinely taken aback and told me it wasn't that big a deal. He just really liked wedding dresses, and it hadn't even occurred to him that I might have a problem with him wearing one, since it's one of the 2 most common options, and we have been to weddings where both partners wore a dress, or both wore a dress, or both wore a tux. After all, it's not like he's contemplating wearing sweats to our wedding. LOL, but of course if I did, he would be fine wearing a tux. Of course he has no problem with me wearing a dress. The reverse roles thing was just one of many ways he thought that could go. He also reassured me that he would feel safe sharing any changes in his gender or asexual identity status with me. I told him we could look at wedding dresses together and coordinate whatever made us both feel special, whether that's dress, tux, tux, or something else. More update 2. ETA 2 LOL. Can we cut it out with the my fiancé is gay comments? I'm pretty sure if he was gay then he would just be gay. rather than go through an elaborate scheme of being in a 5-year relationship with and marrying a woman for cover and then doing the least stealth thing possible at our wedding? EDK, where why all are from but being gay is not considered a big deal or something you have to hide where we are. I'm very open about being bi. He has several family members who are gay and are wholly accepted. Admittedly, we still have a ways to go before trans and other non-conforming identities have the same level of acceptance. But at this point, the comments are just coming across as cheap. Story 2. AITA for wanting my church to be a scent-free environment? Advice needed. I've already had a few IRL people tell me I am the in this, but at the same time I feel really strongly about this. Me and a few other people in my church are allergic to artificial fragrances, i.e. perfume, cologne to varying degrees. I have the most severe reaction where I immediately get a rash all over my body and my throat closes and my chest gets tight. If I don't remove myself from the environment quickly enough, I will start wheezing and I have to take Benadryl and use a rescue inhaler. I had a bad reaction last Sunday because someone was wearing a lot of perfume and I had to use my puffer. Due to the reaction and using the puffer, I ended up with a throat infection. I've had bad reactions 2 weeks in a row and now I'm considering staying home this week. The head of the church board has been pushing to make the environment scent-free, but a few people have told me that everyone shouldn't have to change their routine to suit a few people with allergies. My neighbor told me it was selfish to want people to not wear perfume, and if my allergies are that bad, I should just stay at home, and suggested I go to the church and tell the head of the church board to not ask people to stop using fragrances. The youth pastor is allergic to peanuts, so now the church is nut-free, so accommodations for allergies have been done in the past. Our advice: you're definitely not the for wanting your church to be a scent-free environment, especially considering the severity of your allergic reactions. Your health and well-being should be a priority, and it's reasonable to request accommodations that ensure your safety. It's important to communicate the seriousness of your allergies to the head of the church board and explain how these reactions are impacting your ability to fully participate in church activities. Highlighting the precedent of accommodating allergies, such as the church going nut-free for the youth pastor, can reinforce the idea that this is not an unreasonable request. When discussing this issue with others who may not understand the severity of your allergies, try to educate them about the impact artificial fragrances can have on individuals with sensitivities. Let them know that creating a scent-free environment isn't about inconveniencing everyone, but rather about ensuring inclusivity and accessibility for all members of the congregation. Ultimately, your health should take precedence, and it's important to advocate for yourself in this situation. If necessary, consider providing alternative solutions or compromises, such as providing scent-free alternatives for those who still want to use fragrances. First comment. NTA for not wanting to have an allergic reaction every time you go to church. I don't believe it's reasonable to ask the entire congregation to be scent-free, but a good compromise would be a scent-free section. I'm sure there are others who would appreciate it, and it would still allow those who want to wear a scent to do so without causing anyone discomfort. One would hope that people attending church services would want their fellow attendees to be comfortable. It's supposed to be a community, isn't it? Surely these people don't want to drive anyone away from the church. Second comment. I might sound like an for this, the devil's advocate if you will, but the world can't be made to cater to everyone everywhere. If you have a sensitivity to perfumes and colognes, which I have, you have to accept that some places will not be an ideal space for you. This reminds me of a recent hard-to-believe story I heard of a student being suspended for eating chips on the way to school and throwing them away on campus. They had a teacher deathly allergic to corn, and the school had gone above and beyond to cater to this single person's very rare problem. Whether it was true or not, I feel that in cases like this, it has to fall on the individual to sacrifice for the greater good, so to speak. In my opinion, if that teacher really wanted to teach children and enrich their lives, then they should have taught remotely and not limited an entire school's dietary possibilities. I can sympathize directly with you, since I have a similar if not identical issue, but inconveniencing an entire congregation instead of opting for finding an alternative for your singular worship comes off as selfish to me. AITA if you try to push this issue further, but I understand where you are coming from.